Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 23. So in last episode, we had the entire offseason, including the draft, and we picked up a couple of solid prospects, and our roster is starting to come together a little bit. As you can see, we brought in Valery Zikov at the draft. He does not have a zone ability, but he is now our top line center, so hopefully this guy could be a pretty decent two-way forward for us. We also got Jorgensen, who's up to an 85 apparently, which I don't know if he actually is an 85, but hopefully he can continue to do what he did in his rookie season, because he actually had a pretty good rookie season, all things considered, with 46 points in 82 games, 27 of which were goals. We also do have Sloan, who's up here as a 60 overall, Brophy, who's a 64, Dean Nicola, who we recently drafted, who doesn't really have much potential, but should be interesting to see what he could do. We also got Grattan, and then on the defensive front, we got Nikitin, we got Kuznetsov, who's got low elite potential, so I'm really hoping for some good growth from him this season. We also have Larson, Voutilainen, and a little on our defensive core. And then goaltending-wise, we got Klesla, and there's another goalie we have as well, but we weren't able to sign him to his ELC because we have too much goaltenders, but he will probably be in our lineup next season. So anyways, before we get into our second season simulation, let's go over a few comments. So the first one is from GoGoob. He says, you don't see any draftees X factors until you scout them, and that's included when he was mentioning included when the Fog of War is turned off. So the player that got drafted by the Boston Bruins that we could have drafted, he actually could, he does actually have X factors. So you are right on that. We can't see them still, but we could see them on this screen, which is kind of funny. Like, we don't see him on the top, which is a little bit weird, but it looks like he's got Magnetic as his zone ability, and then he's also got, like, Make It Snappy, 1T, and I don't remember what the other one is, but it looks like he is pretty good in terms of shooting and also a decent passer. So it should be interesting to see what that guy could do, because that guy's literally getting the chance to play with Marchand and Pasternak to start the season, unless that's just preseason only, which it might end up being. The next comment is from Cadillac. He says, I think this team will get 5 wins. Would you consider using UDFAs? So 5 wins, I think that is doable this season for us. Definitely, I feel like we should be able to get more than 3 wins like last year. So hopefully this team could get a couple wins, but obviously we want to win the draft lottery. That's the first and foremost thing. But he also said, would you consider UDFAs? So would I consider taking undrafted players in this franchise mode? So right now I don't think I would, but maybe eventually down the road, like if for some reason we really need to like get in prospects in the last few years, maybe I'll bring in some UDFAs, or maybe if we end up winning the Stanley Cup in this franchise mode, maybe another Draft to Glory series, I'll consider using some UDFAs as well to make our squad even better and try and win with some undrafted guys as well. So that is always an option down the road if you guys want me to do that, like in one of the final seasons if we end up needing to win. Next comment is from Rahul B. He says, I might be mistaken, but it looks like all your contracts got slightly inflated, which is fine for now since everyone is on their ELC, but might be worth signing a cap whale every year to make sure you meet the salary cap minimum. Keep up the great vids. Thank you for that, Rahul. And also, I think you are right, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Jorgensen's salary is up to just under $2 million. But every season we're going to need to sign some cap whales before these guys get their next contracts or something like that, just because, or else these guys' caps hits will get inflated. You can see Nikitin's also making 1.9, so hopefully that isn't much of a problem down the road. But we do have a few cap whales on our roster that we signed. They are all in the minors, as you can see, all at 17.6. So there you go. Some of them might have to play in the NHL in order to get that cap inflation down, I think, but we will have to do that at some point. And the last and final comment is from Hockey Guy 88. He says, I think you'll get 5 to 10 wins. I'm also surprised Gallant put up so many points as a 77 overall. Also, Bedard should be a lot higher than the 79. Yeah, I agree that Bedard should definitely be a lot higher than a 79, and also it is kind of surprising that Gallant had that much amount of points as a 77, but maybe I don't know, maybe he's just as good at offensive shooting and stuff like that really helped him, because he did have a really good shooting category. And he also says that he thinks that we're going to get 5 to 10 wins this season. So should be interesting to see if this team can get 5 to 10 wins. I don't know if we're going to get that much wins. Like, I feel like we're going to get maybe at the most 5. I don't see us getting to double-digit wins this season, just based on the fact that we have a lot of 50s still in our lineup. But hopefully a lot of these guys could get some good growth, and then maybe next season we could get to like up to 10 wins or something like that. And yeah, it should be an interesting season to see if we get a good amount of growth from our prospects and all that type of thing. So before we actually also simulate the season, let's take a look at the new guys that we drafted in last episode and take a look at their faces, just because that's something I want to try and do every single season. So the first one was our first round pick, Valery Zykov. Let's take a look at what this guy looks like in terms of facials. Anything spectacular? He's also got gray hair like a couple players on our roster, so he looks pretty old for an 18-year-old, but there is Valery Zykov, probably an assistant captain already on this team, more than likely. We also do have Jacob Gratton, who we drafted in the 7th round, so this guy doesn't really have much potential, but he is a power forward, so probably a pretty big guy, I'm guessing. He looks like he just has, a pretty basic face, nothing too spectacular, but he does have the tilted visor, which is pretty cool, so that's pretty neat from an equipment standpoint. Let's go over to, we never still drafted a left winger yet, so hopefully that's something we could do in these next few drafts. Right wing wise though, we got nobody else as well. Or wait, actually, did we draft Villette? Yeah, we drafted Villette, I forgot about him. So let's take a look at Mr. Villette, see what his face looks like. And he looks pretty basic as well, nothing too spectacular. Nice kind of like faded blonde hair, kind of a cool stick as well, cesium tax. Nice skates as well. You gotta love those skates. Next player we gotta look at is D. Nicola, and then we got some defenders to look at as well. So D. Nicola looks like this. He is a pretty big guy and he's pretty much bald. So he might be pretty physical based on how he looks, I don't know. In terms of our defensive prospects that we drafted in last episode, we got Per Larson, which I'm excited to see if he can get some good development and become a top 6 defenseman at some point. He also looks like he has, gray hair. A lot of gray hair on our roster, even though a lot of these guys are young players. There's pretty interesting. Silver hair and everything, wearing number 78. And then we also have Valery Kuznetsov. Does he look old as well? Let's see what he looks like. He has a beard and he's got a pretty cool hairstyle. So, yeah, I actually like that look for Kuznetsov. It's pretty nice. So there is our draftees from last episode. Let's get into the season simulation and see how this team could do for year number 2. And hopefully we could also win the draft lottery in this episode, because that'd be nice to get the first overall pick this year and continue building up our squad and all that type of thing. So let's go all the way to the end of the season and not pay much attention to the preseason and all, because obviously preseason does matter and we're definitely not going to be a playoff team, but it should be interesting to see what we could get in terms of the draft this year. Because obviously we're going to be looking mostly to probably bolster our depth a little bit more. Obviously we don't have that yet, but hopefully a lot of the guys that are on our roster get some good growth. We actually won the first game of the season against the Colorado Avalanche, which is a pretty big win for this team, because that's a very good team you're going up against. So good to see that we won the first game of the year. But then we've lost 12 straight now. Winner out, there's our second win and a shootout loss. So 2 wins and an extra frame loss, which is not bad. We're almost at as much wins as all of last season. So, and last year we got shut out like 30 times, I'm pretty sure it was mentioned in the comments. So it's good to see that we haven't been shut out as much so far this season. So at least we're able to score some goals, but we are being shut out a couple times. Jeff, if you want to count out the shutouts again, that would be really great, because then I could compare it to the first season. Now we're getting a couple shutouts against, which is not great, and only scoring like 1 goal in a couple of these games, so that's not too great, but oh well. Like I said, we want first overall, and hopefully EA doesn't crap on us again, because last time we fell from 1 to 3, even though we were definitely the worst team in the NHL. There's another shootout loss and a win over Detroit, so we have tied our amount of wins from last season. Can we break that, is the question. We just need one more win to pass our season totals from last year. It might come down to the wire, because we are playing pretty terribly as of late. There's a 10-0 loss to Pittsburgh. Let's see, can we get another win? There's a 10-0 loss to Ottawa. Wow. Yikes. There's our 4th win. Let's go. This is our best season in our entire history so far. We have hit 4 wins. Can we hit 5 wins? A couple of you guys said we would hit 5 wins this season, so it would be interesting to see if we could hit that 5th win. We lose to Colorado there. Another loss. Who wants to be the team to lose to us, please? There's an OT loss, so another point at least. There's a shootout win over Seattle, and we have hit 5 wins on the year. Let's go. We have done at least 5 wins. I know we're not going to hit 10 wins, but good to see us at least hit that 5 mark. Can we get a 6th win? Shootout loss there as well. 4-0 loss, and 8-0 loss. So 5-72-5. So we got points in at least 10 of 82 games this season, so I will definitely take that. That's not a bad season by any stretch, at least for a Draft Glory team. Let's advance today so the season is fully done. There you go. And let's take a look at our player stats and team stats for year number 2. So obviously we're going to be dead last in the entire NHL. Yep, by quite a large margin, almost by a total of 60 points, which is kind of crazy. We were scoring over a goal a game this time around. Last time we scored under a goal a game, so that's at least improved. And we still finished a goal under the next closest team, which was Seattle. Goals against per game wise, obviously we are still the worst as well by quite a large margin, so we got to start keeping the puck out of the net eventually. Power play only clicked at 5.6% this year, which I think is worse than last year. It was 5% worse than the Suns pretty much. Power play, our penalty kill percentage was this season was not actually that bad. 78.9. Tampa had a 79.4, so we are literally only 0.5% worse than Tampa Bay on the penalty kill. So that's pretty impressive. We didn't win a single home game this season. We did last year, so at least we got some points in extra frame, and we had all 5 of our wins come on the road this season, which is a little bit weird. 0-9-1 in our last 10 games. So there is our second season. Let's take a look at our player stats. It looks like Jorgensen's getting a lot of growth, which is crazy. But Zikov's rookie season, pretty good. 49 points and a -75. Definitely improved on the plus-minus factor for our team. And Zikov's is up to an 82 already. So that's not bad. I will definitely take that. 9 power play points this year. No short-handed points. A positive face-off ratio, which is good. 52.5% on the draw. Over 100 hits. Good takeaway numbers. Pretty solid from Zikov for an 18-year-old. Brophy 28 points, -79. Not too bad from Ashton Brophy. Still a 67 though, which is not great. But maybe he becomes a 4th liner. But definitely improved upon last year. Pretty much doubled his goal total and almost up there and doubling his assists. Well, up by 6 assists. His plus-minus also was much improved too, so that's good from Brophy. Grattan in his first season, 4 goals, 1 assist for 5 points. Only 8 penalty minutes, which is not bad, -79, but this guy didn't really do much in his first season. Didn't really take a whole lot of shots either, though, so wasn't getting power play time or penalty kill time from the looks of it. But there is Grattan. Left wing wise, we didn't draft any of these guys, so these guys don't matter too much. Right wing wise, Mats Jorgensen, 49 points this year, -80. 27 goals again for him. Less power play points, but same point totals almost the exact same point totals. And much better plus-minus wise. Shooting percentage went down, but it seems like he's a pretty good goal scorer for a playmaker, which is interesting. He's got 15 power play goals already in 2 seasons. And his face-off percentage is positive, even though he doesn't take a lot of face-offs. Over 100 hits this year. Good takeaway numbers as well. Because last year he was positive in the takeaway ratio. This year he was positive as well, but by a large margin. So that was good from Jorgensen, up to an 88 potentially as well. I don't know if that's statistical based or what, but he is growing pretty well on his ELC. Sloan, 20 points in 82 games, 10 goals, 10 assists, -70. Pretty solid. Only a 61, so not really getting a whole lot of growth. But did improve in terms of goal scoring especially, and his plus-minus is also a lot better. D. Nicola, 13 points, -84 in his first season. Not really that great, but maybe he can build upon that next season. So there is D. Nicola. And then Vallette, only 3 points in 82 games. He really struggled. He had power play time as well, which is kind of weird. 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points, -79. Doesn't have really good offensive awareness, though, so I guess it makes sense. But kind of surprised he only picked up 3 points throughout the entire season. So that's pretty not a lot. So defensively, though, 24 points from Nikitin, a -101. Obviously, he was out there a lot against the opponents, so that makes sense that he had a really bad plus-minus still. Similar point totals to last year. Not too bad of a two-way defender. Like, he doesn't pick up a whole lot of points, but he picks up a decent amount of assists. And, yeah, his goal scoring's not really there either. But 66 overall now for him at 20 years of age. His offensive attributes and stuff are getting better, which is also good. Little 15 points and a -63 on the top 6 pairings, pretty good. He's only a 57 overall, but pretty similar point totals to last year. Much better plus-minus wise. And his shooting percentage is at 7.4%, which is pretty high for a defenseman. So that's a pretty good season, I'd say, from Little, all things considered. 13 points in 82 games, minus 99 for Voutilainen, up to a 58, but he's a 7th defenseman. Did he improve upon last year? Yeah, he did by quite a large margin. Scored more goals, couple more assists, better plus minus. You like to see that. Kuznetsov, 12 points in 82 games in a minus 117. Yikes. But up to a 57 overall. Hopefully he gets some statistical growth, but not a terrible first season. Obviously hoping for a little bit more growth there. Larson, 10 points in 82 games, minus 95. Not a bad first season from him. He's still a 62. And then goalie-wise, Klesla was 352-3, so he actually got some wins this season. Last time around, I don't think he got any of the wins, or maybe it was somebody else that got all the wins. But yeah, he had points in 6 of the 64 starts he had. An .891 save percentage, which is pretty decent. A 4.62 goals against, which is kind of high. But did he improve upon last year? Yes, he did by a large margin as well. He only had 1 win last year. He gets 2 more wins this year. Also a couple extra OT losses. A much better save percentage, and the goals against is also way down, so he's improving. He also picked up an assist this season, which is pretty good for a goaltender. He's up to a 60 at 20, and then Andre doesn't matter that much at all. So there is our players' season. Let's quickly gloss over the entire league because I don't care too much about the NHL at this stage. But best forward this season for points, McDavid with 105, Draisaitl with 102, and Ovechkin with 101. Ovi led the league in goals with 66 goals this season, which is pretty crazy. 16 more than Austin Matthews. Crosby was up there as well in goals, which is kind of surprising. Best defenseman this season was Anthony DeAngelo in Montreal with 74 points, but there's also Charlie McAvoy with 72 points up there. Fox and Hughes, not a surprise. Best goaltender this season for wins was John Gibson, which is kind of a surprise. Most shutouts, Jacob Markstrom. Best save percentage by a starter is going to be Nick Jelkovic, it looks like, with a 920. But Stolarz also was up there with a 920, which is a bit weird, and Gibson too. Best goals against by a starter is going to be John Gibson with a 244. So John Gibson might win the Vezina this season. Any goalie goals for fun? No goalie goals, but 5 goalie assists from John Gibson. So John Gibson had a really good season. Best rookie this year for points, Connor Bedard with 54 points. He's already jumped up to an 86 overall in his first year, so there you go. And that Gallant guy that went 4th overall after us had 52 points in his rookie season, 28 goals. So maybe we should have went with him in the draft, who knows, but he's up to an 85 overall, so maybe he was playing top line time. Let's see, was he playing a lot? 19 minutes on ice. I wonder if they were playing him on the top line or not, but he doesn't have as good face-offs as Zhukov. Zhukov had only a little bit less points. And yeah, a little bit worse overall wise now, but I still like the pick of Zhukov. I think it's going to help us out defensively in a lot more situations than Gallant would. Gallant would probably be a power play specialist, while Zhukov would probably be like a penalty kill kind of specialist as well. So there is the player stats for the season. Let's simulate up to the awards and all that type of thing, and also see where we're going to be drafting for the season. And we'll take a look at the draft class, the progress reports, and that will be it for this episode at that point. But hopefully we get a pretty good pick in this year, and hopefully it's somebody that could bring a little bit more of an offensive punch to this team. We'll see. Or if it's a player on the defensive end, that'll be okay too, I guess. Because if I remember right, this is a draft that has a lot of defensemen and a lot of wingers, so we might be able to find another guy for the top line. Nashville has fired their head coach. Interesting. Rangers have also fired their head coach after the playoffs. And the Washington Capitals are going to win the Stanley Cup here in year 2. San Diego wins the Calder Cup. Let's stop the simulation and take a look at those awards. So Alex Ovechkin getting that Stanley Cup win. Here's the playoff tree in case you wanted to see that. So Washington beats Dallas for the Stanley Cup in 2024. The awards for the season: Stanley Cup goes to Washington. Pittsburgh won the President's Trophy. It was the Dallas-Washington Cup Finals. Individual awards: Connor McDavid wins another Art Ross, not a surprise, and the Hart. Tony DeAngelo wins the Norris. David Pastrnak the Lady Byng. Gallant wins the Calder for Boston. That's kind of a surprise because he was second in points, only behind Connor Bedard. So maybe we should have drafted Gallant. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter at this stage because we will be able to find probably a good sniper at some point. That would be our Gallant version. So John Carlson won the Conn Smythe in the playoffs. That's kind of a surprise. Gibson the Vezina. Antti Ranta wins the Jennings with Casey DeSmith. That's a little bit of a weird goalie combination for Pittsburgh, but they are the best goalies. Nikitin wins another Masterton for us, so there you go, Kirill. Nicely done. Persinger wins the Adams for Dallas. Kopitar wins another Selke, and McDavid to Lindsay, and Richard going to Ovechkin for the second straight season. So there you go. There's awards. Don't care about the AHL because we don't get any guys down there at the moment. So those are the awards. Now we got to find out that draft lottery results. Are we going to win the draft lottery for 2024? Please, please, hockey gods, please. Yay, yes, we go. Let's go. We stayed at number 1. We have the first overall pick for the first time in franchise history. San Jose falls from 3 to 2, and Buffalo falls from 2 to 3. Or actually, San Jose jumps from 3 to 2, and Buffalo falls 2 to 3. But there we go. We have the first overall pick for next episode. That's a great way to start it off pretty early in the franchise mode. I don't remember if I ever had a first overall pick with my Houston series. But retirement-wise, in case you guys want to take a look at this, not going to go super in-depth with this, but here is the retirements for year number 2, highlighted by Louis Eriksson, pretty much. Yeah, not a huge retirement class by any means. Chris Russell as well. And Carey Price hangs them up already, which makes sense. Ben Bishop as well, Corey Schneider. There you go. Coach retirement-wise, did we lose any coaches? Does not look like it. No, we did not. Okay, good. And apparently, oh wait, wow, that's a little bit weird. Apparently, one of our AHL players, or maybe one of the guys that was in our NHL lineup, actually retired though. I didn't see that. But David Elsner, not anybody we drafted, he's now a scout as well as Carey Price. So that's kind of neat. David Elsner being a scout. It's kind of weird because he shouldn't be a scout because he was never an NHL player, but oh well. Okay, so let's take a look at first the progress reports, and then we'll take a look at that draft class to see what we're getting at first overall. But in terms of our players, let's see. Zikov's getting a lot of growth. He's up to an 85, apparently a lot of natural growth with some statistical. Brophy's getting a lot of growth as well, up to a 68 at 20. A lot of natural growth there for him. We also have Jorgensen, who's up to an 86. A lot of natural growth from him. Nothing statistical based, so that's really good. Jorgensen's becoming a really good player already. Stallone up to a 63. That's good. Vallette up to a 62. Di Nicola up to a 60. Defensively, Nikitin's up to a 68. Larson's up to a 63. Kuznetsov's up to a 60. That's pretty decent since he started as like a 57, I think. And Voutilainen's up to a 59. Goalie-wise, Klesla's up to a 63, and that's pretty solid. In the system-wise, Carlson, who we drafted, is up to a 56 at 19. He will be in the NHL next season. We also have a Little, who's jumped up to a 59. That's nice to see that. What else we got for prospects, or players that are in our NHL lineup, technically? Gradden's up to a 56. That's decent as well. Okay, so some solid, pretty much growth throughout our entire lineup, which is exactly what we need in order to be a competitive team as fast as possible. Obviously, we want to have good drafts first and whatnot to make sure this team is good for a number of years. But let's take a look at that draft class. We do have the first overall pick this year, which means we are getting ourselves a left-wing sniper, which is actually exactly what we need for that top line to play alongside Jorgensen and Zikov. Frederick Bickle. Really good shooter, good hands, good skating. He apparently is like Bobby Hull. And yeah, he's got good, he's got close quarters, he's got make it snappy all alone. More than likely unstoppable force and might have seeing eye as well. So this guy would more than likely be our pick considering he's the unanimous number 1 pick. But there is also a power forward in Norbert Krupp who's supposed to go second, who looks pretty good. Also a good goal scorer. You also have some defensemen like Gravchenko, who's a defensive defenseman more than likely. I would never take him probably though. Lowry, who's also a sniper and listed as a gem. Weakness in character though for a top 5 pick is not great, but this guy's pretty good. But yeah, we're more than likely going with Bickle since he's the unanimous number 1 overall pick, it looks like. But here's what the rest of the first round looks like in case you guys want to take a look at that as well. We'll also take a look and see if there's any steals that we could pin for later rounds. Because obviously we want to find some good picks in the second round. Like this guy, if he falls to the second round, Tommy Rask might be a good player. I'm going to pin him in case. Let's see if there's any low leads to steal potentially. Let's actually pin Bickle even though he's already the first overall pick by far. Is there any good steals here? Guaranteed medium elite goaltender. That's Butterfly Neal. Harry Neal. That's funny. Bob Cole and Harry Neal. That's funny. We'll pin him. There's also a medium elite DFD. He's probably going to be a low overall at a gate, but that's also a pretty solid pick, especially for a later round one. Any low elite steals? We might be able to find some good players for our roster in this. Low elite two-way forward in Festerini. 19 years of age. Looks pretty good in terms of shooting, puck skills, and senses. That might be or have to be one of our picks for sure. Lepisto. Don't know if he's a low elite for sure. But yeah, it looks like we're going to find ourselves some good prospects in next episode for sure. Helps that we have the first overall pick this year and that we didn't fall back. So there is that. Any guaranteed top sixes for later rounds as well. Eric Cook might be something decent, as well as Taro Latinen. We'll pin him too. So those might be some players that we go after. Let's actually take a quick look at our scouts recommended picks in the draft board. So yeah, Bickle is the unanimous #1 pick. The scouts don't recommend us anything else. Second round wise, they recommend us Ulf Backer, who actually is guaranteed almost to be 1 year out. That guy actually might be our pick for sure. So we will probably pin this guy. Yeah, we'll probably take that guy in the second round if he's actually that good. Cardwell also looks really good as a defenseman though. He's also 1 year out guaranteed. And Tommy Rask is one of the ones we are looking at. So we could definitely get ourselves an NHL ready defenseman, or we could go with Backer and get ourselves more forward help. Depends on what you guys think. Cardwell I think might be the better option, but he is moving down in the draft apparently. Third round wise, they're recommending us all these guys, which one's 3 years out. That's not bad. And then there's also this guy who looks like he could be actually way better than it looks in Villeneuve. I don't know if he's a real player. But yeah, we might be able to find some good steals in the later rounds to round out our prospect pool a little bit more. So anyways guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Anchorage Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will have the entire offseason again, and we'll set up the team for year number 3. And hopefully this team can continue to get some good prospects in, and hopefully as early as next season we can get closer to getting 10 wins on a year. I don't know how long that's going to take, but hopefully it comes a bit soon. So anyways, think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.